Yeah, if it doesn't work, that's the best I can do. We'll see how this goes.
No, I got you.
Now recording.
So I was sick all last weekend and the first part of the week. I'm still struggling with a cough. So if I end up having to stop and cough, just bear with me.
No worries. Remember, we have the truncate silence. If we're just silent, it gets cut out anyway.
Okay. Boy, they
Okay.
nerfed the 499.
Okay. I'm almost ready. Okay, can you go ahead and talk? I'm doing an audio check here.
Yep. 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 Test one, test two, test, 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 test.
You go ahead and talk. I'm doing an audio check here.
Check, check.
Yep.
Check one,
Test one.
check two.
Okay. All right, we're good. Okay, so I'm ready to count in. 3, 2. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I am your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brad Wren.
Hey, everybody. It's build week.
Yes, on today's show, we cover all of the new updates for the 2025 season. 1. Check out more sim to reality stories. Spend Mike and Brad's money. Is there an iRacing brake hack? Will this simply help with stuttering in iRacing? And get a tour of Sim Coach's new showroom and shop.
That's right. And remember that you can follow along with us on your PC or your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com. Select the show notes. We hope to see you there.
Right. And so let's start with we got social media post about the new content that we got this week in week 14 build. So Brad started us off with the Gen 3 supercars.
Yep. So we've got a slew of these. So with the last build was the Gen 3 supercars for Australia. We got the Camaro and we've got the Dark Horse Ford Mustang. So we had a post on Instagram with some nice, very nice screenshots. Cars look fantastic, and then of course we get the trailer or the preview, whatever you want to call it, um, on YouTube. So cars look really, really good. Heard some good feedback from what I've seen on the forums and some other social media posts. The one thing that I think is good is both the cars have different physics, different sounds, so it's not like how we are with the NASCAR cars where it's all the same. It's unique to both cars. So I think this has been a well needed improvement. Don't own either one of these. These were very difficult cars to drive in the past. I'm not even sure if I had the most current iteration of the car, but from what I'm hearing, they seem to be a little more intuitive. Not quite as a brick to drive. So these are probably on the bucket list. I'll probably grab one at some point. But yeah,
And to clarify what you were saying, like, are they different physics? Like, one might be faster than the other?
I think they're BOP'd, so the balance of power is there, but they're definitely unique from everything I've seen. It's unique sounds, but it's also the physics. The cars handled differently, but both still competitive.
I've been running the original supercar, I guess you'd call it Gen 2, um, for quite some time and hosted on weekends when we'd run it at Michigan on an oval, and it was actually great racing. Uh, it- and
That's
so
on an oval.
right. And so I wonder, is that group I run with, are they going to switch to the new car? That would force everyone to buy it, but that'd probably be the only reason I would probably buy it is if I had, I got to run this race with my group and if they decide to use it. But they're kind of known to use free cars and free tracks only to get more participation because it's an open hosted. But we'll see. I don't know if I'll get it or not. Next up is this bump start first look for the GTP cars. And I think it was interesting listening to you and David in the Discord the other night, Brad, when David kind of experienced this for the first time. He's like, there's something wrong with the sound. I can't hear the engine. And what happened is he had rolled off the pit road on the electric part of the engine, and then it bump started, and then when he bump started, he spun it out actually.
Yeah, well, so during, I guess what used to be the test, when you during downtime you got the test and you can do it. I jumped in, I think the Porsche, and was trying that, and so get in the car, and I've got for a normal car I've got ignition and I've got a starter. So hit the ignition and hit the gas, and the car took off. It actually didn't have to start it, so it starts to roll with the way it should in real life is a roll under hybrid power, and then it will go ahead and start. So that kind of caught me off guard, as I actually didn't have to start the car. But yeah, I mean, look, it's strictly sound based right now. We'll probably get into this a little bit later, but for immersion, I think it's cool. It's very neat.
Next up is the Thruxton Circuit. Now, I've had a blast racing on this so far, and with the BMW car, which is we'll talk about that later as well. Uh, Very short, kind of fast track. There's a airport runway down the middle. I didn't even see it, but I've seen it in the videos and whatnot. But um, what a neat track.
Yeah, it's another one from England. So we got, what did we get? Did we get Croft last time? I'm trying to remember what we got last time. Caldwell Park. Is that right? Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so they said they've been in England and doing a bunch of scanning. So it's an older track, not super wide, but this one's been around in a bunch of different games through the years. But yeah, very yes, it's short, but it's pretty free flowing. It's a very quick course. I don't have it yet. I'm not sure if I'll get it. Just kind of depends on what I run, if they'll run there, which I doubt it. But I think you'll find a lot of the open seaters will be here. Some of the lower power cars, I'm sure we'll see it. Some of the rookie to D class road cars. But I mean, again, the level of detail just continues to increase with the track. I mean, we saw that with some of the curbing and all that work. So I think the track looks fantastic.
Different video they put out on Twitter shows the runway down the middle of the track, and they actually put the four different BMW cars on it and did like a drag race, like a four wide drag race, to kind of show off the track and the infield airstrip.
All right, then we've got a post from on X, the 499 now available. So again, this was the surprise that nobody saw coming till the developer blog by Greg Hill. So we do have the Ferrari 499. There was some worry that it was going to be delayed, but it hit, looks like, on time. So great preview video. You can't watch this and not get excited to want to race it.
Yeah, and I heard it's going to be in the IMSA. That's where they're going to put it.
Yeah, there was some question, about where it was going to end up and if it was going to make it to IMSA. So glad to see that. Just go ahead and continue to increase the car count. Um, some other issues with that, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Right. And then next up was the Husets Speedway. And we got some video there as well of this short dirt track. Um, not going to get it probably, but yeah, for the dirt guys, it's very much needed.
Yeah, not a dirt guy, but it's I don't know. For the dirt guys would probably say, or the road guys would say, "Oh yeah, it's an oval." So as being a non-dirt guy, say, "Yeah, it's a dirt oval." That's about all I can say. I don't know a whole lot about the dirt side.
And next, I think is my favorite thing in the build, the BMW M2 CS is now available and free. And so out of all the week 13 races I could run, I ended up picking the BMW, this new car, because it's a new and it's free. Um, very impressed. 360 horsepower, I think it is. Uh, Short wheelbase, lightweight car. It gets up and goes when you hit the throttle, and I love that. And it's kind of snappy when it turns. Um, anyway, I had a good run with this. I ran several races. Ended up getting a second place and then a win in this car 2 days after it came out. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I turned some laps in the other night. For me, anytime I get a new car, I usually go to Silverstone. I don't know why, but that's like the track that I use to shake down cars. And this thing was a ton of fun to drive. Was really surprised one at how much um, I guess one power, but everything seemed very intuitive when it came to driving it. During the test drive, I tried the BMW GT4 and did not like that at all. And so I figured when I tried this one, this is probably going to be a mess as well. But my gosh, take the GT4 out and give me this. What a fantastic fun car. I know that it has stability control and stuff like that, and I think that you can actually disable that. But yeah, I mean, from force feedback to everything, the car just felt. I mean, just felt like when I hit the corner, I knew what it was going to do, and again, it felt very good. So I was very surprised. I haven't done anything other than that, but I will probably jump into something this weekend in it.
I learned that I couldn't do donuts in it, and I even turned off that traction control thing, and I still couldn't do donuts in it.
Well, if you'd have gotten over by the gravel, you probably could have done some donuts for Mike and thrown it all over the place.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that because I got to experience that as well when I ran those races, and there were a lot of those cars in those races, and people, new to the car, they're going off track, and so the track could be clean the first lap, and then when you come around the second time, you'd hit a particular corner and it's completely covered in gravel. And sure enough, the grip is just gone. It's just like ice. So you have to slow down like it's wet.
You able to see it in enough in time to be able to back off, or are you on it before you realize it?
No, no, you can see it. Yeah, it's definitely visual. And you at first when you first run through it, if you're just at full throttle like normal, it catch you off guard because you lose the grip. Doesn't lose a lot of grip, but I would say somewhere like 10 to 20% grip.
So were you getting, I know like in the video they hear that they show when the cars are coming back through, say the lap after or whatever. I mean, there's dust and everything else coming off the track. I mean, are you experience all that?
Oh yeah, you get the smoke cloud of dust, but the other thing is the gravel will clear off each lap as people run through the line. And so the line will get cleaned out. You'll see the gravel on either side.
That's excellent. So yeah, this is kind of the one thing I've been excited for. I haven't done any racing this week. Like I said, I have turned some laps, just for some of the stuff and got out. and threw gravel on the track just so I could see it. But um, like again, I'm excited. I mean, we talked in our team chat that I think this opens up the possibilities for a lot of things. And for me personally, I hope that we can maybe get to a point with the endurance racing where we end up with a track that has gotten so dirty or something that we'll get a full course yellow, because it's the one thing I think we miss right now in endurance racing with iRacing. But yeah, look, I mean, this is what real life drivers have to deal with, and you see it if you watch a race. I mean, if somebody goes off and gravel comes back on the track, it's there. So we all scream about wanting wanting realistic things, and I think this is just another layer, just like they did with rain. I mean, it's as much as I complained about rain at the beginning, I have embraced the rain, and I feel like I've gotten somewhat good at it because it's intuitive, and it makes you think, and it makes you drive, and you have to think. It's not just hitting the same thing every single corner, and that's the one thing for years iRacing was. It was like it was a stagnant environment. It never changed. Well, it's continuing to change, and I am very happy about that.
When you say full course cautions, that would drive me to run road racing. It really would. I think. I think that's one of the drawbacks of doing road racing is I know it's a sprint to the checker. I mean, it really is. Whoever gets there first, because there ain't going to be a caution.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the weekly stuff, I don't want yellows, but when it comes to the endurance stuff, so where we're running six, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24-hour races, the problem with those is, yeah, if you get behind, you can never get caught back up because there's no chance unless somebody has an issue. So I think from the endurance side, that's the one thing I hope is coming at some point. I would love to see full course yellows because it would make it so much more interesting to be, you're 6 hours into a race, and you get a full course yellow, and then it bunches the field back up. And now, hey, you were running in fifth, but you were 20 seconds behind or 30 seconds behind or whatever. Now you got a chance to make back up. So, like I said, I hope this opens up uh, the discussion or the possibility of at some point getting this.
Next up was a New Hampshire NASCAR refresh. This is nice. I don't think it's a rescan, but it's a refresh. So visually, I believe is what they're talking about.
Yeah, I stumbled across this, and in the video I thought was great because it's literally side by side comparisons, and I really did not realize that much had changed. So I jumped in, I think the Cup car before I saw this video, and went out, and I was like, wow, this looks really different. And I'm like, wait a second, there's no stands there. I'm completely confused. Um, but then once you watch this, like I said, side by side, you see you just what a difference it makes. It's New Hampshire was one of the oldest ovals on the service, and it when you look at it side by side, it really shows its age. But we'll get into we get into the updates, but I've been pleasantly surprised with just the overall look of every track. It doesn't matter whether it's new or not. Some of the changes that they made in this update, to me, make the game look a lot better right off the bat. So we'll get into some of that in a little bit. But yeah, um, I think Vegas was talked about, but I guess it just missed the build, and I think Greg had alluded to that, and I'd forgotten about that. But I think Vegas is the next one we should get with the next build. So, yeah, the other thing they did was they regenerated the bump map, I guess, for the track. So I'm not really 100% sure what that means. It's not a rescan, but I guess maybe needed a little digging, or if some of our listeners know what that means, jump on our Discord and let us know.
Right. So that's all the new content highlights. Moving on to the next story, we have a real car making a debut in 2026, the Genesis GMR 001. Wow, this thing looks like the Batmobile, kind of it. What do you think about this? Is this gonna, increase the car count again when another car comes in?
I would assume so. So, I've really gotten into sports car racing. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So, been a lot of talk about this. The expectation was they were going to field cars for 26 in IMSA and WEC, which is the World Endurance Championship. But they're actually going to run WEC in 26 and hold off till 27 for IMSA. But yeah, look, it's a fantastic looking car, and everything that I've heard, listened to, read is that Genesis is the it's a luxury brand of Hyundai, and they are in this for the long haul. They've been in TCR. I guess Hyundai's been in Rally, but they really want to make the move towards sports car. And yeah, the car looks good. It's I think it's based off of the Orica chassis, which is the same thing that the Alpine, I think the Acura is as well. Um, but yeah, it's exciting. There's Genesis is doing this year. We've got um, uh, Aston Martin with the Valkyrie is coming. Still have Lamborghini that's going to be competing. So there's still multiple hypercars that we don't have yet. But yeah, sports car in general is in a very good spot. Sports car racing is in a very good spot, and to continue to see more manufacturers want to get into it is good for the sport. I just think it's good for the state of racing overall.
Right. We next up we have a post from the FIA. They post up on Twitter. Another significant step in the development of esport competition has come today, as the World Council has approved the creation of the FIA Esports Code, Index E, the first such framework created by a global sporting federation. Uh, all real-world motorsport competitions are ultimately governed by the International Sporting Code, and as virtual racing continues to grow rapidly, the FIA Esports Code will regulate esport racing competitions, provide the ASNs with the necessary legal framework to conduct such events at a national level.
Yeah, so this parlays into what we talked about. If you remember, we discussed could we see esports in the Olympics? Yeah, I think you're going to see it, and this is going to be, part of how that happens. There's got to be a governing body that's going to oversee it. So, look, what a fantastic time to be in sim racing, to be involved in esports. We continue to see more and more um, acceptance, and it's not just kids playing on a video game anymore. There's we'll get into further in the script. I mean, there's there's more link between simulation and real world racing that is continuing to evolve, and more kudos are coming to guys that are coming through the sim ranks. So yeah, I'm not a gigantic FIA fan, but I think this is good overall.
One final quote: after sanctioning two esport competitions during the 2024 FIA Motorsports Games, it is anticipated that many more events will be sanctioned in the coming years. They are fundamental elements that have always existed within the ISC, such as the definition of an automobile or a driver, that have had to be changed within the esports code so they make more sense within this new frontier of racing. New frontier of racing. I like that. How about a title idea?
Title idea.
Okay, let's talk about some of the feedback after the build, specifically with the 499 and other hypercars.
Yeah. So with the latest build, and we'll probably mention it when we go through the notes. So there was an updated tire. First of all, updated tire model for the GTPs, LMP2s. Um, the tire model, from everything I can garner, feels better. Yes, reacts more like a tire should. And again, this is the softening somewhat of the carcass. We talked, I think, last time about how iRacing, to overcompensate things, had made the sidewall of the carcass of the tire very stiff. So I jumped in the LMP2 during test drive, and the car felt really good. So didn't spend much time in a hypercar, but so the concern is the speed of the cars, the cornering, and we've got a comparison post down here from Pablo Arajo, and I spelled that wrong. So with a
Actually,
side,
it's Yuri, and it shows the
oh
speeds at Sebring turn one, 256 in the sim kilometers an hour, but the real car 189. So it's not even close.
yeah, so there's that, and then with the with the release of the Ferrari, the Ferrari is an LMDH car. So the difference between LMDH and LMH. So IMSA is LM, I believe it's LMH. So where the hybrid energy is transferred to the rear tires. In LMDH, which is most of the cars in WEC, the hybrid energy is transferred to the front tires. So it basically turns it into an all-wheel drive car. Well, with the Ferrari, that's not supposed to kick in. I think it's 190 kilometers. Well, at 190 kilometers, you get the sound of it kicking in, but apparently it's there all the time. So that's an issue. There's been tons of concerns with the trying to model the physics of the hybrid system since the very release. I think the BMW must have been the first GTP that had it. And I think reading through the forum, and I mean, we're talking probably 15, 20 pages of stuff. I think it's been broken all along. I think people have just kind of dealt with it. But when the cars are running, so much, like Mike said, 50, 60 kilometers quicker than the real life counterpart, the forums have basically been almost in meltdown mode. So thank goodness, finally, there was a post from Greg Hill in the midst of that forum thread, which was probably at page 13 by then. Says, hello, just a quick note that our team has been monitoring this feedback closely, as well as working to comprehensively understand the full scope of what has been shared and how it relates to the current development plans and improvements already underway. We'll have a bit more info that we'll share soon, but for now, I just want to make sure you all knew that we're aware, we appreciate the feedback and passion, and that this is important to us. We strive to deliver the best simulation of real-world racing possible, and this is the central tenet behind everything we do. More to come shortly. So, Mike, we talked about this in our chat, and I guess the underlying question that came up is, how does this get through? Did anybody test the car?
Well, I think that's really the discussion is there a Q&A department? Or do they need to hire Q&A guys? I mean, because this is such a glaring mistake, okay? Look, mistakes happen, new content, this and that, I understand. But man, this is way off. One guy on Twitter says the Le Mans lap time is 9 seconds off real time.
Quicker.
Quicker, right.
Yeah, slower down the straights. It doesn't quite have the top end speed, but through the corners, it's ridiculous. So, it's just super gripped up. Look, I'm not a huge fan of racing the hypercar in the sim. I don't like the point and shoot way of the nature of the car. I prefer a 10 top sports car. So that's the difference in me. It's just, uh, I can't, as challenging as it is for me to be quick in the car prior to this update, I don't even want to get into it and try because it's just, I'm not into super grip and all that. And I guess that's the issue is it's again, if we're going to have a sim and the striving here is to be realistic, at some point we've got to try to address some known issues. And I guess, again, with these type of cars, with the hybrid system has been a known issue for quite a few years.
Oh, look, I want to put this in context of it for an oval racer who might not understand. Like, let's say in a cup car, the lap at Martinsville is 30 seconds, just for argument's sake. And then this change happens, and now all of a sudden the lap time is 20 seconds instead of 30. Okay, that's really the difference here. And you'd be like, this is ridiculous. I mean, this isn't even close to a cup car running 20-second laps at Martinsville. Come on, really?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, Mike. Or I mean, let's imagine Dover, okay, and instead of having to lift get into the corner, it's just Dover's like Daytona. You never have to lift. I mean, that's about the way it would be. And let's take 5 or 6 seconds off your lap time at Dover. Yeah, no, it's just again, it's fundamentally. I hate to say it's fundamentally broke. And again, I am an iRacing fan, and I want iRacing to be successful. But the reason that I think most of us, two reasons that that we're on iRacing is one, we like the competition, but two, I think we like the realistic that when we sit down and get behind our virtual race car, we think it's should be basically what the real world drivers are driving. And again, that's the way that it's sold. It's sold as the most realistic simulation that you can drive.
Well, and the good news is we know Greg Hill and his team are going to fix it, or they're going to do their best. So, pretty cool. Looks like Justin Pearson might be joining. Welcome, Justin. We're going to move on to Trading Paints Paint of the Year. Round two voting ends in 16 hours from now. And so hopefully you guys can hear this before the voting ends and get your vote in. What do you guys think of these paints? And I guess my question is, which one are you voting for? I mean, I gotta love the Liam Brotherton paint, for the B Ford Mustang. He called it Certified Harpoon, kind of a pinkish with a yellow front. Very cool looking colors.
I'm kind of scrolling through here right now. Um,
Ooh, I like the Wild Cherry Pepsi in the 88 car, 87 car.
the Castrol Ford Mustang by Nathan Tacchiani looks good. Yeah, there's some great cars here. So yeah, um, log in, give a vote, and not sure what the prize is, but paint of the year was probably a nice, be a nice badge to have if you're a painter.
Oh, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, some of the iRacing community would be rather painting than racing. I'm seriously. So, what do you guys think? Have you ever dabbled and kind of made your own paints? I mean, I always lean on other people because I'm not that creative.
I've been doing it for years. I mean, all the way back to the NR 2003 and prior to that. So I enjoy it. I like trying to put my own spin on something to where it's nothing that's somewhat cookie cutter. Um, Not as good as probably as I used to be, but then again, I haven't done it in a long time. But yeah, I mean, prior to probably 13 or 14, you know, 2013 or 14, I mean, I would probably spend as much time painting cars as I would racing. So I did cars for teammates and other people. So I enjoy it. I always have. It's just a nice creative way. And for me, I love motorsports. So I couldn't sit down and paint something on a you know on a canvas. But if you give me a virtual canvas and I can wrap it around a car, I'm happy and excited.
Justin, what about you? Do you paint your cars or you rely on others?
No, my boy Bobby on the team paints my cars, and I think I've ran the same paint. That's the first paint I've ever gotten is from you guys when I joined the team. And I think I'm going to run it till I'm done with my career. I like it.
Well, Bobby will usually update your paint every year. That's something he does. So before the Daytona 500, you'll probably get a refresh. Yeah, thanks, Bobby, for doing my paints as well. I don't need to look elsewhere. I mean, I know they're going to be quality. In fact, my last paint was so good, I printed it and hung it on the wall.
I've never even attempted, or I don't even know how to start a paint, to be honest.
It's uh it's not that hard. Again, it's just it's you got to get the creative juices flowing and um yeah, like I said, I enjoy it. Not super good at it, but I do okay, I think.
I was going to mention Trading Paints Pro is a good tool for novices that want to get started. It is a subscription fee, but it does support, an integral part of our community is trading paints. We couldn't enjoy all these paints without them. And so if you're interested, try it. They have a really neat online tool to build it. You don't need software. You don't need to install, the stuff that Brad uses and stuff. You can just do it right in the Google Chrome.
Yeah, it's an online paint shop, so that's good. It's very good. I mean, I've got Trading Paints Pro. I've never used the website. I mean, the paint side of it, but I have it for being able to, different liveries, suits, and all that stuff. So no, it's good. And look, I can tell you, as somebody who was around in the papyrus days before iRacing and trading paints, running a league, and you never understand the pain of trying to get league paints into a game when you had to get everybody to submit them to you, and you had to zip them up, and then you had to get them to where people could download them and put them in their files. And oh my gosh, what a nightmare! And then somebody wouldn't do it right, and then then that person got mad because nobody saw their paint. And yeah, trading paints is a huge asset for the community.
Right. Sim to reality. Will it work? Brad, why don't you take this one? You mentioned it kind of before.
Yeah, so we've got it's actually a video series. So we've linked here to the first one. Um, I've watched up to three, but there's more. So this is put out by Oracle Red Bull Racing, and this is documenting Sebastian Job, who we've talked about before, who's won I guess the Porsche Carrera Cup, the iRacing Porsche Carrera Cup World Championship, and he's a esports driver for Oracle Red Bull. So has the opportunity to, first of all, in episode one you'll watch, he gets to spend time in the Porsche Cup car, and you know gets the opportunity. So you've got the Formula One. You got what's his name? Who's the team principal for?
Christian Horner.
There you go. The documentary opens up with Christian Horner talking about him, going, "We're going to see if this guy can go from the sim all the way up to an F1 car." So he starts in the Porsche Carrera Cup, then he moves to the F4, to the I think it's the F3.5, and I haven't finished watching yet. But if he does well in those, he gets the opportunity to get in the actual Red Bull F1 car. So the first episode, like I said, he's spending time in the Porsche Cup car, and he's got a mentor, he's got someone who's teaching him, and that's one of the Porsche Cup drivers. And within the first, probably the second session in the car, he's a second off race pace. So he was hoping to do a 153. He ends up doing a 152. By the time they get done, he is a half a second off the Porsche Cup driver. Christian Horner, the engineers are just like, I had no idea that he would be this good. So, it's very interesting to watch as he works through, getting familiar with the car, finding the limit of the brakes, finding the limit of the tire, the things that we do in the sim that we can do over and over again, but there's no consequence. If we lock a tire up, we lock a tire up. Well, you lock a tire up in a real car, you flat spotted it. Guess what? That's $200. Thank you very much. Let's move on down the road. But it was very interesting to watch how he progressed, and how he they were what they were really shocked with is they could give him the feedback and watch him go out there and do it, to where, I mean, some of them, they even said that better than somebody who's been real racing their entire life, he was able to take the feedback and immediately go out there and be successful doing it. So um, I'm going to finish watching this because it's super cool. I don't know how it ends, but yeah, I would. They're about 10 or 12 minutes long. I would strongly suggest anybody to watch these. It's very cool to see how, again, you've got a guy who spent his time just in a simulator like all of us, and you got Christian Horner going, yeah, if this guy can't do this, I'm not letting him get in an F1 car. And then just to see those guys look at the timesheets and look at the stuff and go, wow, 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 he's really good.
Yeah, I think that was the most impressive at the end, where the engineer was just looked him in the eye and said, "Look, you're doing better than most," and he was truly impressed with just the pure speed, that he accomplished in such a short amount of time. But wow, this guy could really be the true sim to reality hero if he can make it to the Red Bull F1 team. You know, I mean, he works for Red Bull. He's under contract already as their sim racer. He does sim work for him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, like I said, with the Porsche Cup side, I mean, they get done, and the other engineers look at the current driver, and they're like, "He's half a second off of you, and he's at race pace right now."
Pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing this next episode. I only watched the one so far. At the end, they kind of teased, well, he's got to have the strength for an open wheel car, and they show him kind of working out in the gym and being all, trying to gain muscle. But that's going to be his next hurdle for sure.
Can you imagine what that would do for sim racing if he actually made it to F1 and competed? That'd be like the ultimate goal for iRacing.
Well, but look, we've had it happen. I mean, look, William Byron started on the sim. Yes, he spent some years, in uh, in Legends and stuff like that. But just there's been a plethora of guys that have been able to transition from the sim to to real racing. What's the Call of Duty guy that we talked about? What, last week or week before last?
Crim6. Yeah.
He
I play Call
he's
of Duty. I know him.
Yeah, I mean, he's one. I mean, look, whatever the guy was on Gran Turismo. The whole movie was made about him. I can't think of his name right now. Ends up going to Le Mans. I mean, look, it's possible, and again, real racing is relying on sim more and more now, more and more than ever. I mean, look, who's it? That's the 2311 guy that does all their sim work.
Keegan. Yeah,
Keegan Brad. Yeah, yeah. Again, hasn't spent any time on a real car, but I tell you what, he worked with Denny Hamlin. He worked with a bunch of those guys on the road course stuff. And what did they do? They improved. So there you go.
I think you're right, Justin. If he breaks through, if he's really like the next Max Verstappen, that would be something. That would definitely take us to another level. All right. 2025 season one preliminary schedule has been released. What are you guys going to run?
I'll be back in IMSA world. I'm gonna keep up with the Cup car. Just one, I got to get my overall rating back up before we hit NIS. So I took a beating there towards the end. Gonna try to do some of the GT3 sprint races. So I think that's the SimuCube. Just because looking at the schedules between those two, they're basically that IMSA share almost the same tracks. It's just different weeks. So look, again, every beginning of every season, I look at the schedule. And I'm like, yes, I want to run that series, that series, that series, that series, that series, and that series. And then I go, oh, I guess I'm going to run this series, and I'm going to maybe try to run this series. I'm definitely overzealous, maybe.
You, Justin.
I mean, I'll probably run the Cup car a little bit. I'm going to change it up this year. I'm not going to go all gun ho on NIS. I mean, I've been running these leagues and money races here on the side, and in my opinion, that's the way to go. So I'm going to try to find some more leagues, competitive leagues to run in. And I've been rocking these dirt late models. I've been having fun with these lately. So I might try a little on dirt.
I'm going to stick with the F4 car. I think another round. I got second place in the points twice, so I'm kind of like, I want to get it. So I'm gonna try it again. I tried during the test drive the Super Formula Light and the Super Formula. Not a fan. I wasn't a fan of the light car at all. And the other one just was too much for me. It was too big of a jump. Um, so I think I'm gonna stay where I'm at, running what I usually run, basically. Okay, Brad, why should you avoid this brake hack?
All right, so we got a video from Get Good. Get Good, I guess how you say it. So, I guess when I started to watch this, I thought he was going a different direction than what he did. So, the whole philosophy behind this is the hack would be, as you calibrate your pedals, you would calibrate them to 80%. and no more than that. So reason being is, as you race, if you press the if you give 100% brake, you're never going to get more than 80%. So you would reduce your chances of locking up your tires, um, and whatnot. And first of all, what a horrible idea! Absolutely horrible idea. Why you would I don't want why you would anybody in their right mind would take 20% of their braking force away. I don't know. The whole purpose of threshold braking is learning where that threshold is. If you try to artificially create threshold braking, it's not threshold braking. Um, so he tried it and tried it both ways, and he said at the end of the day, it was quicker to not do it that way. And he said the only way that he could see where perhaps this would be a benefit is somebody who drives the same car continually and just becomes accustomed to it. So at the end of the day, it's muscle memory. That's all we have in a car when it comes to braking is muscle memory. I don't want to train my muscles to perform at 80% when I would rather have 100% of my use of the brake pedal, and then train myself the proper way to threshold brake. Um, just not a, I don't, I don't, I understand somewhat the mindset. I just don't, it just doesn't make sense to me why you would limit yourself other than trying to prevent lockups. But again, you can learn not to lock the tires up.
I think it's just that. If you set it up this way, you could drive it, and when you get to turn one, you just slam on the brake as hard as you can, and it won't lock, and it'll do 100% or basically 80% braking right before the lock. So he tries to set that threshold right before it locks. That's part of the hack.
Okay, but here's the problem. If that corner requires 90% brake, if all I can brake is 80%, guess what? I got to start braking earlier, which means me being the guy that can brake 90% can brake deeper into the corner, which means I can take you in the corner because I can drive the car deeper into the corner because I could use more brake.
And, it only works if you can get a good fast lap in when you're setting it up that you know that you can get to 90% on that corner, and so if you don't get that set up right, then there's lots of downsides to it. But like you said, at the end of the day, it's not worth it. So don't do it. And we have another sim to reality story.
Yeah, came across this on the forums. This is by uh, Dean Chin. So he had a post on the forums saying iRacing racing driver in real GT3. So he's got a documentary trailer here of him, I guess this past year, spending a season running in um, running a full season in GT3 Japan. So he says I'm no pro driver, but going into this, some occasional karting. He said he has less than 10 real races under his belt. Other than that, he's raced a lot on iRacing. So he made the documentary while he was racing. I haven't noticed if he's actually released it yet, but this is very cool. And again, I think I subscribed to his channel just so I can see when it comes out. But yeah, I mean, again, this is a guy who's I guess was a streamer of some sort, maybe, and people ended up kind of crowdsourcing him to give him the opportunity to do this. So I don't know how his year went, but I'm looking forward to whenever he ends up releasing this.
Right, pretty cool. So let's jump into the actual season new series and series updates from Greg West. He gives us some details of some of the changes they've made. So let's go through those.
So new series is the introduction of the BMW M2 CS. Again, that's going to be, and I guess they're going to have a new series at the rookie level called BMW M2 Cup. Going to be a fixed setup series run on the base pack trackages, base pack tracks. Oh my gosh. Um, so let's see. They're also going to introduce a new bi-weekly endurance series called the IMSA Sports Car Endurance Challenge. So the series will run on the odd weeks opposite of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. And this will feature the LMP3 and the GT4 class cars. So the current every other week Michelin Pilot is the TCR and the GT4. I think it's 2.4 hours. It's a longer, like an endurance race, but you can do it. You don't have to have, you can do it as a single driver. But now you're going to get the same thing. Basically models the Falcon Tire Challenge, which is a normal weekly race. I'm excited about that. I think I'm going to try to do some GT4 races this coming year. Also, we've got series update with the Ferrari 499 and the Acura NSX GT3, which we skipped, but that was also released in this build. Both of those will be implemented into IMSA, and I'm sure the Acura will be put into the GT3, the SemiCube GT3 sprint race as well.
And some time changes. Global Mazda Cup is going to run every 30 minutes on the 0 and the 30, while that new BMW M2 Cup will be on the 15 and the 45. The FIA F4, they're switching up the times on those, so that's going to change on me. And then Dirt Super Late Model Tour is going to be a NIS style February through November series. Pretty cool.
And then the only other thing was they were pivoting away from the LMP2 prototype challenge fixed. They're going to move over to a new format called the prototype challenge fixed, which will feature the new Ferrari 499 along the other GTP classes. So you just have a GTP only fixed series. I think they ought to probably make that open. Maybe that would take some of the lunatics out of IMSA, but I digress.
All right, so that leads us into the actual release notes. I guess let's just talk about what did we not talk about yet.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but Brad, you were talking in the chat, excuse me, about if you get a black flag at any source in the cup car, that it's automatic DQ.
So they changed you talking about the meatball?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me see where it is. They made some changes to that, and supposedly, where's it at? My understanding is that your crew's going to try to fix it, I guess, better, but I guess there's been some feedback already that almost any kind of damage seems to be unrepairable, and you've got to retire. So, um, and I ran a race last night. I had about 10 seconds of damage, which got fixed easy, but I'm looking for it. I'll let me find it, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And so some of the stuff we haven't mentioned yet was Demo Drive, which used to be Test Drive. So you actually launch this in the sim in the lower left now, or I should say the beta UI, and it stays up for like 12 hours every time they do an update. And so that's how you can drive cars you don't own.
So much better. Being able to go in there and just click that as opposed to having to go to the website. Then you had to set up a different render DX11 monitor file, and oh my gosh, what a pain that was.
That's much easier now.
Netcode improvement. That always helps.
Right? And overall, I'm going to just say there's a lot of graphical changes to the graphics. They've taken out some things like anti-aliasing, and they're completely gone. But I've heard from watching the forums and stuff that FPS is up, not down for most people after the update.
Yeah, if it was for me after I tweaked my anti-aliasing stuff, so you had to kind of play with that because they added some different levels to the MSAA. There's 4 different levels. So, yeah, I've been super happy with the way it looks. It just looks better. I ran a race at Michigan last night, and Michigan just looked 100 times better. The cars looked better. So the whole specular lighting thing that they changed, I think, looks a lot better. So, Justin, I found what you're talking about here. So, under the car class NASCAR Cup Series next gen cars, reworked aerodynamic damage penalties to provide greater downforce loss and a reduced drag penalty. Also, if your engine or wheel sustained heavy enough damage, it may be beyond your pit crew's skill to repair your toast. So, look, at the end of the day, I'm not unhappy that if somebody ends up with damage where they normally would have come back out and probably wrecked the field and they gets parked, and if that causes some people not to drive like lunatics every week, I'm good with that.
Yeah, because especially if that reckless driver, this happens in the beginning of the race, and NIS has a million cautions, he can get that thing rebuilt in half the race, and then just ruin somebody else's race at the end of the race.
Well,
I mean, I don't hate it.
no, and we've talked before. I mean, it's just I look at the real world counterparts the same way. The cars are somewhat indestructible. Outside of a tow link, you can beat and bang and do whatever you want to do to the cars. It didn't affect it much. So I'm hoping that if somebody crinkles the front end, that they slow down and they're not just as quick as they were before.
A new thing called season recap. I don't think we're going to see that though, I guess, until the season is over. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Results and stats, they mentioned something they fixed, but when I went in and looked at it, it was completely broken. So I don't know if they fixed that in the hot fix, but you couldn't sort it or filter it, the stats at all. Like you couldn't pick your division like normal. So yeah, it was definitely broke.
Well, they broke it like last week. They made some changes to it last week before the update, and I think I complained in the message, in the team message that you had to go back and resort it multiple times, and it was again, if it worked as simple as any other spreadsheet or any other table. You click on the top and it filters it the right way. Why do I have to go 4 different places to get information?
They just took out the filter completely at this point. Uh, unsafe rejoin is a new protest violation list item.
That's good. Mike, you probably would have got dinged on that for last season.
Yeah. So legacy member site continues to be shut down, basically.
On the track side, one we've been asking about for a while. So on Atlanta Motor Speedway, they've added the a safe entry rule for pit road. So cars must approach pit road using the apron in turns 3 and 4. So that's good. So like the real world counterpart, they enter pit road off of going into turn 3. So no more, craziness of trying to get to the Atlanta pit road between 3 and 4.
Race control. Some of these caught my eye. Cautions are now disallowed if the white flag has been raised. Now we've seen where we've gotten past, we've gotten the white flag and then the caution would come out, 100 yards later. And so this should hopefully fix that.
Well, they've talked about the race control stuff. I just hope that they continue to do some other work as well because there's lots of stuff that needs to be done.
Asphalt ovals, size 1 mile, medium, short lap cars are now allowed to pit with leaders during caution, reducing
Yeah,
caution sequence
that's
by
that's
lap.
that's good. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
like a quickie, a NASCAR quickie caution. So we talked about the update to New Hampshire, but we also had some updates to Watkins Glen. So again, same thing. Track surface bump back has been regenerated. They've done some curb work. It now has the 3D foliage. Just the start finish line logo has been changed. Some track marshals and stuff. So I did get out and turned a few laps on that. That looked better. Um, so again, nice to see some improvements to some older circuits.
Spotter, well, when they get damage, it'll tell you what kind of damage: engine, aero, wheel.
Yeah, I experienced that last night, so that was a nice change. Because look, before it was be like you've got damage in the rear end. Okay, well, is it gonna? How bad is it gonna hurt me? Or you got damage on the side. Well, I don't know what I can't see my car. I don't know what it's doing.
Anything else to hit on this one?
I'm skimming through it real quick. No, I mean, I think overall it was a good update. We talked about the refresh. So no, I thought it was pretty good. We did have a hot fix that was released today, and they had to catch, as typical, a few bugs. So redesigned my account page. I guess made some changes there with the account information and history. They did make some changes to the dynamic track model, improve the calculations for track debris that was accumulated and thrown by opponent vehicles, improve the throwing and the spreading algorithm. So, fixed critical issue where some development code for the debris refresh made available for adjustment by drivers. That's not good. I'm not sure how that would work. Could I turn it off? Could I increase it? Or, what could I do? Is it like Mario Kart where I can throw out a banana peel? Um, so fixed an issue in the new debris types, gravel and mud were not being cleared correctly. They did fix an issue, I think, with the rain as well. Puddles were not showing up right. So to make that better, they did some issues with the anti-aliasing settings were incorrect. And again, the previous in the options page, you could pick your level of anti-aliasing, but I think it's now set default to 16 in the INI. And then a few updates here or there, which we typically get. And I'm sure probably middle of next week we'll get the first. What do you think? The first patch by middle of next week, Mike?
Well, they definitely got to fix those GTP cars. So yeah, let's jump into events. We have Blake McCandless offering up the Atlanta 550. Justin, this one's for you. I think you should
Yep.
race this.
Yep. I tagged you in the team chat because this is you.
I have to check. I might have missed it. I'm looking at it right now. It's not a link. I gotta type it in here.
Well, you can right click or highlight it and then hit right click and go to link.
Because I'm in that Discord group.
Yeah. So
So
this is 367 laps at Atlanta 08 in the 87s. So 55 entries are open. It's first come, first serve. So you better hop on it, boy.
Heck yeah,
now,
I'll run this.
well, one question was Donnie said says all 55 will start in the main event, and Donnie said, "Is there 55 pit entries or pit boxes?" I don't know.
You share. You have to share. Same thing with them. So there's times where you have to share.
I see. That's a long race, Justin.
What'd you
What
do
was
at Rockingham? You did a long one at Rockingham, didn't you?
500 laps at Rockingham.
Ah, you're an idiot.
I raced with Hosavar,
Dale Jr.
Dale Jr., Parker Kligerman, Jamie Honeycutt won the snowball. Yeah, that was a fun little race.
Well, you're the resident 87er, so I think you need to do this.
Not by this year's NIS record, I'll tell you that.
All right, next up is news about the Sim Racing Expo, March 13th, 14th, 15th, Austin, Texas. Tickets are not for sale yet, but coming soon.
Are you going to this one, Mike?
I think I am, yes. This is coming up soon. I guess as soon as that's 3 months from now, from this weekend. So as soon as they announce the tickets, I'll probably buy tickets and book a room and a flight.
I was gonna say, yeah. Let me see. As soon as we know what tickets are, and yeah, if we do this, we need to get a bunch of us to go. So we need to make it a boys' weekend.
Yeah, I would consider it. I mean, I got plenty of time.
I think it'd be fun. So everyone who's listening, join us in Austin, March 13th, 14th, 15th, and more to come on how to do it. Brad, it's Chili Bowl time.
Yeah, so we got to apologize. We completely missed this one last week, so sorry about that. But this weekend is the iRacing 2024 Chili Bowl Nationals. So this is the indoor dirt midget event. It's going to be held in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So this be the 10th through the 14th. So everyone that registers for the Super Session will get to race. So the Saturday Super Session takes the top 60 overall points from the race week. So I guess you've got to do heats throughout the week. Again, not a dirt guy, so I'm not probably the best one to speak to this, but there's different sessions for all nights. You've got a practice, you got qualifying, and then you got to run through your heats to figure out your mains and all that. So yeah, again, I'm not a dirt guy, but I think this is pretty popular.
Yeah. If you can run it, man, this is the big event. This is like the Super Bowl, right?
I'm telling you, if it was possible, they need to scan that. I watched the Gateway Dirt Nationals last weekend. That event's a blast. That track would be neat. It's kind of like the Chili Bowl, but late models.
Right. And then Brad, the Creventic Endurance Series at Spa.
Yep. So the iRacing Creventic Endurance Series is back. So this is going to be Saturday, December 14th, with a visit to Spa. This is going to be, I think this is the 24 hours. So yeah, 24-hour. I'm sorry, 12-hour endurance race. So full slate of GT and touring cars. So remember we talked about the series before. You got three different classes. You got the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, GT4 cars, TCR cars as well. So yeah, this is should be fun. Maybe we need to try to figure out do one of these. We haven't done one of these.
Okay, and that moves us to this week in racing. Uh, Other stuff we haven't covered. Week 13 series include GT3 Challenge Fixed at Thruston, and then the Funny Forecast, which is GT3, GT4, and the new M2 at Nürburgring. Then they have the Wet and Wild, which is new supercars and the GR86 with rain. Then the shiny new shakedown with the supercars. The BMW 12.0 Challenge, that's the one I've been running this week, which is just the BMW at whatever track. And then the 13th week World of Outlaws Sprint Car, 305 Sprint Car at Huset's.
Are these ranked or are they not?
They're not. SR counts, IR doesn't.
Gotcha. We've got the winner of NASCAR iRacing Series is at
Charlotte.
Charlotte. So there you go. That's for you two boys there. Y'all have been running most of those.
Yeah, I'm going to try it tonight. See what happens. I haven't even turned a lap at Charlotte yet.
Okay, podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find the podcast. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Check out the Discord, get involved in the discussion, and our show notes at iRacersLounge.com. We are in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network, and get your podcast merchandise at iRacersLounge.shop. Hardware, software. If you're an Intel guy, Brad, what should you do?
So if you're an Intel guy and you've been dealing with the stutters in iRacing, which I've been dealing with, gosh, probably about the last month or two. Dave Cam posted a video. It's about a 2-minute video, and for me, it fixed my stutter fix. So the issue is with the Intel, I guess the Gen 13, 14s, whatever they are. By default, most of the cores are parked, and as what would end up happening, the whole purpose of parking a core is the core is parked until it's needed. So your processor sits there and it's like, oh, it needs some more power. Let's go ahead and fire up another core. Well, what appears to be happening is when it goes to fire that core up, it goes ahead and causes a stutter. So I went through and did this. It's very simple. You just go in, you're looking at your processes, you're seeing how many cores are running. You make a simple edit to your registry. And for me, completely took care of it. I have not had any at all. I actually picked up, I think I posted in the team chat before the build. I picked up think I picked up about 10 or 12 FPSs after doing it as well. So for me, this was a big change. I'd actually gone into where there's another setting, I guess, in the performance to where you can have it to not park your cores. Well, that didn't work because they were obviously still parked. But for me, this was a game changer and helped me out tremendously.
I want to point out that you shouldn't do this if you're AMD.
Yeah, this is strictly Intel. So
All right. How much, Justin, for this button box?
You know, I really don't know. I think you guys said in the chat it was like $100.
That's right, 100
yep.
bucks.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. And my question to you guys, because I know you guys got the same button box, and I'm going to be in the market for one. If this was out, would you consider it because of the price?
If I'm on a budget, yes.
Yes. Yeah, if I'm
Okay.
on a budget. But I do like my ignition control button box a lot.
It's metal. I mean, the ones we have is all of it's metal. Okay, the whole thing. This is all plastic. It's very plasticky looking. It's functional though. I mean, we even have a review video here where they went through it. There's a few little quirks and things, but for under $100, it's not a bad little box.
No, not at all. Yeah, we got a review here from Sean Pitt. I mean, Sean Cole with the Sim Pit. So I mean, again, gives it again, guys. It's $100. I mean, for $100, I don't expect to get a solid metal box like I have here from Ignition Controls. But yeah, I mean, again, I think it's perfectly fine. Again, if you're on a budget. So yeah, like this popped up, I guess maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and I saw this. I was like, that's interesting. But I'm glad to see an actual review done on it. So
I think the joystick would be real handy, navigating the black boxes and everything during a race.
that's what I've got on mine. So mine, I've got that's not a funky switch. It's just four. So up, down, left, right. But that's what I use to do the black box. So, left and right to switch boxes, then up or down to go through the menu. Super easy. And I mean, I can just reach over there, right here, just reach over, do whatever I want to do. Never have to take my eyes off the wheel.
How much was your guys's?
270 something like that.
300 ship first, yeah.
But but worth it, man. I mean, it's metal. I mean, it's a metal box, and I mean, all the tactileness of all the buttons is great. I have no issues with it at all.
Gotta remember, almost every button box you buy is 3D printed. So that's why Brad likes this one because it's unique. It's metal. It feels like it's going to last forever, kind of thing.
And I saw a picture of Mike's, he put up, and I was like, oh, I gotta have that because Mike's got it.
Well,
I
that's
have
basically what I did with Etsy with you, Brad. Is whatever little Etsy thing you bought, I bought. So
Hey, I like Etsy, man. There's all. Look, I am trying to convince myself not to get a stream deck now because I saw an Etsy kit with the mounting and everything, and for like $160. So I'm trying to convince myself that I don't need a stream deck.
I know I'm in between a button box. Might want to get the SimJack pedal vibrator things, or I want that extension where you can put your middle monitor in to give you a better FOV. So I'm itching to upgrade. I haven't figured out what yet.
All right, let's spend some more money. How about this? A drink system
Yeah, Mike,
from Fluid Logic.
that's right. You threw this in here, so we're spending your money, buddy. This is not cheap, Mike.
Well, this is a real race car system. Anthony Alfredo, I think, is a customer, and I think that's how I found out about this is through him. But basically, it's a hose that you hook into your helmet that provides you liquid, and then you map a button on your steering wheel or whatever, or your button box. You push the button, and the liquid is pumped through the hose right into your mouth. I don't think you have to suck. You just you push the button, and it releases the fluid. Now,
Yeah.
is there a application in sim racing for this? Maybe you fill it with margarita?
Do, do, do you realize how expensive this is?
No, I didn't even look at the price.
It's around $1,000.
Ooh.
This would be hilarious watching you use this on TikTok.
I'm gonna. It's like a beer fountain. Like we could put beer in it, or
It can get all sticky.
all right. So,
Yeah.
Brad, how?
So all you got to it's $100 deposit, Mike. You can pre-order it now. It's only you can either the 32-ounce version is $9.79, or you can double that and get the 64-ounce version for $9.99. So, and that's the one that is got the it's compressed air, so it gets it to even better.
It literally shoots it out the little nozzle or the little hose into your mouth. Pretty cool.
And you probably need that because all that wind that's coming from your wind sim would probably splash it all over your face if it wasn't for that sprayed it into your mouth.
You should just make a deal. Every subscriber you get, you pour one beer in there.
Ooh. All right. Next up, Brad, is the Heiskenveld software update.
Yep. So this popped up. I think I saw it yesterday. So Justin, I don't know if you saw this or not. I know you've got the Ultimates like I do. So yeah, I've got to update my software, and there's probably a firmware update too, I'm guessing. So just a few changes, a little more robust. They said things will update. Made the firmware update a little bit faster. So just some other enhancements. Like I said, I have not dug into this yet. It is on the list to do this weekend. So one thing I like about week 13 is I get to spend some time, just cleaning up stuff. So yeah, I had a race last night, and I was like, should I? No, I'm not doing that right before the race. So yeah, if you've got Huskenfeld either Ultimates or Sprints, you'll want to update your software, and probably I guess even like handbrakes and all that stuff, because I think all of that runs through here.
So last night you were in the Roush holiday race from the Roush Racing Team, RFK, I should say, RFK. Um, Driving a Ford Mustang with a bunch of Mustangs around you, and now here is a Ford Mustang GT3 wheel. Let's spin Brad's money.
Yeah, let's spend Brad's money and get a divorce. So yeah, this wheel got debuted at the ADEC Sim Expo, and a couple podcasts and some videos I've seen showed this off, and so this is basically the same wheel. I mean, it is extremely cool. Again, this is not inspired by racing. This is the wheel from the Mustang GT3 that's been re-engineered for the sim racing perfection. So this is the same wheel that is used in the actual car. And if you look at the link here, and I got an email, and they don't show it in here, but I got an email from Advanced Sim Racing. So this is in collaboration with VPG, but then Advanced Sim Racing also worked in collaboration with Multimatic and created an entire GT3 Mustang rig that they were using at a car show. So yeah, this is fantastic. I love the look of this. I want it, but at $2,300, it will never, ever, ever, ever happen.
It's a lot. I mean, I would be getting the Lewis Hamilton wheel before I'd be getting this one for that kind of money. I mean, it's very nice looking, but it's very plain Jane. It's not, it
It's
doesn't have all the fancy.
No, it's not. But it's the actual wheel out of the car, though. That's the thing. I mean, they've taken the actual wheel and they've re-engineered it to work in your sim. So it's the actual wheel. So yeah,
Brad, that'll look good in your new basement.
yeah. When I'm living by myself, because
Hey,
I've divorced.
hey, if you get a divorce, I know an attorney. He's pretty close to the team.
That's right. You probably got a rental property I can get too, don't you?
Oh yeah,
I'm
I'll house you.
I'm glad I got you guys.
And I didn't get the video on here, but Dave Cam is just put up a review video of this wheel as well.
Yeah, watched one of his videos earlier, and he had it all. He had his wheel, blurred out. So I figured it was something coming that he was playing with.
I haven't watched it, but I'll check that out. Finally, we have Sim Coaches shop tour and employee interviews. And this is Lawrence from Sim Coaches out of Las Vegas. He's got him a new property. He moved apparently. It's got a front display room where he's got 3 rigs set up. Some nice art on the wall. It looks decent. But you can go. He's basically inviting people, come here, show up, try it. Talk to us, hang out. You know, um, and you can try his products basically. But then he takes us in the back and he gives us a tour of how do they put the brakes together? How do they put the rigs together and this what the shop looks like and then on top of that, his employees, including interviews with each, so you get to know personally the people that are actually working on. Like he's got this nice lady working on the brakes. This other guy, he builds the rigs and so forth.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. I think the one thing that reminded me is that we have some very large companies out here that are big companies that take the Fanatec's of the world. But then you've got this is really where a lot of sim racing stuff started. It was a guy and a few people you know had an idea and they wanted to make something work and we are still a very niche industry and I'm just I look I've never used anything for sim coaches. I know we have guys on the team that do and they swear up and down by the support and all that, and that's the whole thing. That's what it comes down to. But I'm glad to see people that can still get an idea and can make it work. And I just think it's awesome. It's neat to see one guy, 3 employees, and they're doing well, and the community supports them, and they support the community. So it's very cool. This reminds me a lot of what it was like, 15, 20 years ago when it was for those that have been around for a long time, you had Thomas Superwheel out of the Midwest that started making high end, wheels for NASCAR racing. And it was just a guy and his dad, making wheels, but they made it work and they sold a bunch of them and they gave great products. It's just neat to see that this still happens.
All right, let's jump on to results and talk Friday, Winter NIS at Martinsville, P6. Ended up getting a passing under yellow because I was being a dumbass, and it was a 26-second hold penalty. So I lost 2 laps, was able to get the lucky dogs and get them back. And then Justin had a computer problem, and I got a penalty for passing to the left before the start finish because he ended up in the wall right in front of me. I got another lucky dog to get back from that. And then later, I got another passing to the left on a restart from a dumbass move I made because somebody was slow in front of me. And I got another lucky dog after that. So worked my way up from dead last to finish P6 by staying out the last 70 laps or so. Justin, what happened with you? DNF.
Yeah, you kind of said it in yours. My, I figured out what was happening, but I don't know why it was happening. So I thought the wheelbase failed, but like what happened is when I got the car slightly in the wall, like it maxed out the force feedback and shot the wheel to the right, and I could barely pull it off the wall. So I freaked out, thought my wheelbase died, so I shut it down. But then it happened to me again. So I don't know what that is. It only happened in that track in that '87 car. So I don't know.
Do you have an e-stop for the SemiCube?
I do.
Did you shut it down or did you hit the e-stop?
I all F forward because I was trying to not give anybody a passing under the yellow, but it happened.
It was one of those split quick decisions, You're just
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm done.
yeah, it was weird. So I don't know exactly what happened, but
You
I haven't
you
had that problem since.
It happened twice at Martinsville in the '87.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, suspension damage that just really messed it up.
Oh, I don't know if it was like net code and it made me just stick on a wall or what, because I don't think I was that close. So I don't know. It was weird.
Look, when those cars stick to the wall, they stick. They're hard to get off. You really have to kind of yank it off. All right, moving on to Wednesday Open Winter NIS at Charlotte DNF. Um, I spun out and turned one 3 or 4 times. Eventually wrecked it where I couldn't continue. It was near the end of the race, but I DNF'd. I was embarrassed. I was good. I drove up to like sixth or seventh at the beginning, and then I spun, and then I kept spinning every so often, but it was just like a freak thing. I don't know why I was doing it. I don't know if it was a setup. I don't know, but I was embarrassed basically, and so I didn't even run today because of it. Moving on to FIA F4, I did run another attempt at Virginia P13. Qualified 16th, got dumped from being side by side with somebody. He knocked me off the track on the first lap, fell way back, but made my way back up to finish P13. Other racing I ran, the BMW at M2 at Outland Park. I wrecked out on the first lap, but finished the race a fun little car. Then I ran Toyota 86s at Lime Rock in the rain, qualified P2, but wrecked out. Then I ran several other races in the BMW M2 at Oatland Park where I never finished. The next day on Tuesday, ran another BMW, started fifth, finished second, and then in the second race of the day, got pole position. I pulled away for a 16-second lead over second place and took the win. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. First win in this car. Love this car. I'm going to run it the rest of the week, I hope. Let's jump to league racing, the Polar Series. Justin, you had a P6.
Yeah. I should have had a P2. I was kind of disappointed. God, I think I started 17th, and that race went green the whole way. And by the first green flag stops, I drove myself to P3. Green flag stops happened. We do the second stint. I drive myself to P2. I'm a second and a half off of the leader. And I must have drove the second stint a little too hard. And I was literally, that's how close we all were, because I was a one stopper, and everybody else did two stopper. And I ran out of fuel probably 100 feet before the start finish line, and I got P6 because they were coming. So yeah, that was race management. I got to figure that out. But other than that, I did pretty good. Pretty proud of myself for the people I was racing.
P19, it was caution free. I got what I deserved. I didn't think it was a fun race. The car was super tight. The setup, which was the fixed setup that iRacing provides, super tight. Anyway, it wasn't enough laps to make a one-stop strategy for most cars. I ended up on the 2, and I got what I deserved. Brad, you got a P21.
Yeah, so I really struggled to keep the tires under me. I was going for the one-stop strategy, but about 3 laps before halfway, where I was going to pit, blew a right front. So I had to pit really about 3 laps early. The whole second half of the race, I was just trying to save fuel. So it was way off of pace. Just trying to hopefully gain, you know, something. If I think I was probably going to finish, I don't know, 19th or something, 18th or 19th, but I ran out on the back stretch after taking the white flag. I think Mike, I think you and Donnie? I think maybe Donnie, you and Donnie got by me. Y'all were catching me anyway, just because I was so far off of pace trying to save fuel. So yeah, I mean, again, it's um, like I said, the racing is so clean there. We need something else to break it up because it's just not fun running caution free. Especially if it's going to be like that race was, where you set the race length to where guys can split it halfway. Had that race been a 140 lap race, it would have forced everybody to at least pit twice, which I think would have made the race much more interesting. You wouldn't have had to get out there and just baby the car and try to either save fuel or save tires for 65, 60, 67 laps.
What I'm saying, let's increase the distance of these races by 10 laps or something, just to eliminate the whole one stop, two stop thing, because it's kind of getting old. And if the setup is this garbage from iRacing, let's somebody else make one or build one, then let's run it, just because it was so bad.
I'm going to be devil's advocate. I kind of enjoy the long runs. It proves what your talent actually is. I get so annoyed with the NIS races. I know I'm a little better than I am, but when those cautions happen and you start getting roughed up, you can't better yourself, I guess.
Well, I agree. I like the longer runs too. Don't get me wrong. It's just if the race was an extra 10 laps, it would have forced people into it to have to do two pits. Do you know what I'm saying? As opposed to, going into the race, it's like, okay, I just got to save tires. And if I can make it to 67, then I'm good. It was the same thing that happened in Atlanta. I chose the two-stop strategy, and that was not the way to go. And the guys that won were a one-stop strategy. So again, it's just and the guy that won, Monday night was a one-stop strategy. Just but I don't know. I just think. I mean, I said at the very beginning, if he does this next year, they ought to do stage breaks or something to break it up, because we're good racers and it would be fun with that group of guys. I wouldn't mind running hard for 30 laps knowing that I got a yellow coming. I think that would be interesting.
I think part of my frustration Monday night with this was it reminded me of the real NASCAR where they ride around saving fuel until the end of the race. And that's what we were doing. Because it was forcing everyone to think about the one-stop strategy. And so basically, you got to stay in line. You can't get out of line because you lose the draft. So we all were just in a line. We're all kind of spread out. Nobody's trying to make moves because you don't want to lose your spot, and everyone is saving fuel, and it's not really racing when everyone is saving fuel like that. I just hate that. I don't like that fuel strategy is part of it. At least, they shouldn't set up the distance where that's the thinking from lap one for everybody. Right. Spiker got a P20, and then Chris Waldron a P14. He said went with the one pit stop strategy, gained 7 spots from where I started. I enjoyed Chicagoland and this A car. Not a bad night. Justin, you were giving Chris Waldron some props. He's really stepped up, hasn't he? His driving has changed his style.
Yeah, I really think you'd have to ask him, but I think he was so conservative. I think he's just putting the pedal down now.
Well, he figured out a way to run to wrap the top lane, because I couldn't do it. I mean, he drove by me on the first half of the race, and I was just like, wow. I couldn't run with him. So it was nice to see him get up there, and he was just ripping the top, man. That's what he was doing. Nobody else was up there. He was all the way up there by himself.
Well done, Chris. He outrun all of us, basically. All right, Brad, tell us about this RFK Holiday Showdown.
Yeah, so I ran the RFK Holiday Showdown last night. This is put on by Roush Esports. They ended up with 2 splits this year. I ran this last year, but they took I ended up making the top split, so it was televised. It was fun. 44 cars started. We're at Michigan, and what was fun, same thing with last year, was they had stage breaks. So had a stage break at lap 25, one at lap 50, then we went the rest of the way. Stacked field. So couple esports, the RFK esports drivers were in there. I think it's Hal and Bolin, I think is who it is. So ended up qualifying P30, managed to finish P15. So survived the first 2 stages. There were no yellows on by default. So we ended up with a spin early that kind of broke the field up. I ended up losing a bunch of time in that, just where I had to back out in order not to get caught up in it. So made it to the end of first stage. Second stage started. I was able to make way up, got up to about P20. To end up getting fenced on the front stretch. So it's like typical anything else. The restart at the stage and people driving like lunatics. We were 3 or 4 wide coming through the tri-oval, or I guess the front stretch, not a tri-oval. But ended up, they did throw a couple yellows because there were the wrecks were that big. Single car spin, they weren't going to throw a yellow, but there were some that just took out multiple cars. So ended up getting a yellow before the last stage. Was able to get the damage fixed. So I drove up top 20. Late restart, I managed to avoid some of the carnage. So that last stage, again, same thing, saving fuel, and guys were running really hard. And I think if it had worked its way out, I probably saved enough. It was probably going to gain a few spots, but we ended up with a yellow. But the like the 5 cars that were around me did not pit, so they restarted on very old tires. So was sitting good on the green, white, checkered, expecting to hopefully to gain some spots, but it turned into a mess coming off of turn 2 on the restart. I ended up dropping some spots just to avoid the accident. I didn't want to get caught up. I mean, I'd run 100 laps. I didn't want to wreck. So happy with the P15. It was fun. Finished better than I did last year. So the wife watched much of it between Facebook and YouTube, and she was spamming the chat on Facebook. I guess they were giving away stuff. So she was trying to win something, but she didn't win anything. But it was fun. So they run a few of these. So I'm going to try to pay a little bit more attention. They ran, I guess about a month or so ago, they did the Mustangs at Indy. So something fun, nice break. But it was cool.
I had it on the big TV for a while watching you guys. They had Jack Rouse Jr. I didn't even know there was a Jack Rouse Jr. on the broadcast, and I thought the broadcast was okay. The guy who was actually doing the broadcast, the only feedback I could give was it almost looked like he had you can only see 20 cars at a time, thing instead of all of them. It almost looked like that, where he didn't have all the cars turned on. But other than that, it was a great broadcast. And the other feedback I would say is this doesn't feel right without having one of the actual Roush drivers in the race. Like, where is Chris Buescher? Where is Brad Keselowski? And why are they not in this event?
Yeah. They had rumored, I guess, that Priest was supposed to, was going to make an appearance on the broadcast. I don't know if he did or not, but yeah, that would be nice. But again, they do put on a few of these throughout the year. So look, I'm thankful to be able to participate. I think it's good to see some of the the Cup teams that are willing to do some of this stuff. So it's cool. Yeah, it's fun. It's a nice break, especially during week 14 when there's nothing else going on, or 13, 14, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, let's jump into final thoughts. Justin Pearson, you're first.
Really not much. Just gonna try this Fix NIS race with the 87s at Charlotte. See how I do there. Just kind of been jumping in little other things. Like I mentioned before, I've been running dirt late models. I think that's been helping my craft a little bit with a looser car. But yeah, just not much. Just trying other things.
All right, very good. Brad Wren, final thought.
It's week 13, so I kind of always enjoy that. It's nice to get a little break. I built the rig, I guess almost 16 months ago, something like that. So I think what I'm going to do probably tomorrow night is I think I'm going to get the old Allen wrench out and the socket set, and I'm probably going to go through and make sure everything's tight. I hadn't thought about that. In this thing a lot, and I think I'm going to take a night and do a little TLC, clean it up a little bit, make sure everything's nice and tight. And, it's kind of nice to have a break, go through, clean up the computer a little bit, get rid of some old replays and stuff, and just kind of get ready for, next week. We start the grind again for our next season. It's December. I'm already starting to think about 24 Hours Daytona and all that. So there's all kinds of good stuff that happens after the first of the year. So, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me thinking about, getting ready for, let's start talking, Justin. We got to get team together, got to get a group together to run some of the stuff. So yeah, it's a good time. So Christmas around the corner, and hey, it's the best time of the year, right?
All right, very good. My final thoughts. There's talk in the news about TikTok going away, or if it can't be sold to an American or something, it's going to be banned in the United States come maybe January. So thinking ahead, uh, since I streamed to TikTok, what will be the plan? I think I'm going to move to Twitter. I actually looked it up. I get a stream key from Twitter if if I pay them for the blue check mark thing, and the premium service where there's no ads. So if I do that, I'll probably start streaming on Twitter. Now I looked at Twitter. Are there people streaming sim racing on Twitter? I don't see it, but there are people streaming live on Twitter, but not necessarily sim racing. So maybe I can be a pioneer. Look, I've done the Facebook, I've done the Twitch, I've done the YouTube. Nobody watches it. Nobody watches it. And so it was so nice to go to TikTok and get hundreds of people watching at any given time. And nowadays when I go live, I get regular people coming back, the same people, the same 5 to 20 people showing up, and it's an ongoing conversation and friendship at that point. So I've really enjoyed it. I hope TikTok doesn't go away, but if it does, we're going to Twitter. And with that, hey, we'll see you on the track. Later.